Welcome to the Ohio Farm Bureau podcast. I'm Ryan Matthews. As agriculture has seen a decrease in net farm income over the past 3 years, farmers have had to get creative in finding ways to bring in off-farm income. Coming up after this on the Ohio Farm Bureau podcast, we will talk with one of those farmers who's found a career as a financial advisor to supplement his farm income. That's coming up after this.
Hi, I'm Craig Pullman from CAP Farms here in southeast Van Wert County. I always call it a small to mid-size family farm cash grain operation. I'm the one here full-time. I've got a neighbor hired part-time, and my dad's still around here, I would say 6 or 7 months of the year. Otherwise, he's down snowbirding in Florida. The health benefits plan through Ohio Farm Bureau, I've priced that several different times through the years. And just the last year, my wife and I made the decision to sign up for it. We were struggling to get quite the coverage we wanted exactly through her work, which is how we've been getting our health insurance for a few years, a handful of years here. And so we priced it again, and it was really priced competitively. Was actually the same price point as her work insurance, and that was with her getting a subsidy from her work side. So was really pleased to see that.
Learn more about the Ohio Farm Bureau Health Benefits Plan at ofbhealthbenefitsplan.org.
At AgCredit, we believe our members' success leads to our success. That's why we have shared our profits with our borrowers for the past 38 consecutive years, putting our profits back in their pockets. As a farmer-owned cooperative, let us show you the value in the cooperative difference. To apply online or find the location nearest you, visit us at agcredit.net. AgCredit, committed to agriculture, committed to you.
With the continued downturn for the farm economy, many farmers are looking for new opportunities for off-farm income. It's estimated that for farm families in the U.S., that nearly 77% of income comes from off the farm. Agribusinesses such as Nationwide are seeking these types of individuals who bring industry knowledge and experience gained from their work on the farm to add to their teams. This episode, we have Eric Brown, a farmer in Huron County, who also serves as a financial advisor for Legacy Capital Advisors. Welcome to the show, Eric.
Good to see you, my friend. I'm looking forward to it.
Same here. Now, before we dive into your experience as a financial advisor, can you just share with our guests a little bit more about yourself and your family farm?
Sure. I am an old guy now, 57 years old. And again, as soon as I came out of the womb, I think I knew farming was going to be front and center in my life for the balance of it. The funny part is we all know God has a sense of humor and realizes that there's multiple ways and multiple paths to get to where you want to go. And mine involved, having to go to college, having to have a job off farm. I started off right out of college as a commodity broker for a local cooperative. So I worked again in the industry still, helping farmers market their grain, merchandise their grain, that type of thing. But still worked full time on the farm as well. So it wasn't, again, when you're young and dumb, you have nothing but time and energy. So you can handle 2 full-time jobs, no problem. The biggest thing that happened as far as like transitioning into non-farm employment for the rest of my career was kind of forced. I mean, back in the 70s and 80s, financial times were hard for farmers, high interest rates, inflation, land prices and stuff were getting crazy. Economy was horrible. And then in 1990, when I graduated college, we had that tough conversation with my parents that, if you truly want to farm, you're probably going to have to come home and figure out how to save it. Well, as a 21-year-old kid with college debt and no net worth and no economy of scale of any kind to make some changes, I had to go out and find something that I was good at. And it turned out that helping people get out of their own way and make the best financial decisions for themselves they can was kind of my thing. And it's kind of a two-pronger a little bit. I don't want to go on and on, but I think this is pertinent, is that none of us get to where we are alone. And, there's always some influence in there. And I had an old farmer that was a neighbor of ours by the name of Dick Albright. He was a turkey farmer. And my dad didn't think that I worked hard enough on my farm. I also had to be dropped off at other farms around the county, so I didn't have idle hands. And he was a commodity speculator. So in the early 80s, when I walk into his office to tell him I'm going to work, there was computer screens everywhere. So as a young teen boy, I'm seeing computer screens and this is all real cool. And he was cool enough to ask and said, hey, what are you looking at? And I'm like, well, what is all this? And he says, well, would you like to learn? And of course, that started my path down learning how to be a trader, how to trade commodities, how to, do that on my farm. And again, one of the skills that I actually think was the most valuable in help saving our family farm was learning that, again, the most critical aspect is how much do we get for all the hard work that we put in. So that is a long way around the block to answer your simple question. The blessing that I have now is my son also farms now full time, and my dad still participates in the farm full time. So there's a lot of heart there too when you get to be in the field and you see all three of us in the field working together. I know that's not going to last forever, but truly puts me in a place where I appreciate what my off farm career was able to do for my family.
That's great, Eric. Yes, and I'm sure that, having that vantage point of multi-generations in the field and seeing all the hard work that you're doing and your father and your son after you kind of all come together on the same page and seeing where that leads to. You mentioned it a little bit. You talked about some of the, skill sets that you had as a farm kid that kind of led into your career. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Maybe some of the, financial certifications or even just other skills that you gained while growing up on a farm that has helped you be successful in your off-farm career as well.
Sure. I'm going to keep it real simple initially. I think the number one skill that has been a separator for me in my career has been the work ethic. When you grow up on a farm, the work's never done. And there's never a sick day. There's never I'm going to go hang out with the other kids day. At least when I grew up, there wasn't. And so you really got that appreciation for a hard day's work, not finishing until it was done. And in my industry, it's kind of a 9 to 5er. Most of the people that do what I do, they don't start right away in the morning and they quit pretty quick in the afternoon. So being able to have the discipline, the duration, and knowing the payoff for putting the extra work in, that is something that definitely translated directly into the new career. Secondly, I think, coming up through the commodity trading platform really gave me the base that I needed to easily transition into securities, life insurance, and stocks and annuities and all that type of thing. It's kind of like anything else. If you learn the basics in one thing, if I know how to be a good plumber, a lot of times I can become an electrician or I can become a carpenter because working with your hands, the base tools and all that are pretty much the same thing. That translates back to the financial game as well. There is quite a bit of licensing that is involved. I think to this point, I've probably taken 6, 7 exams, licensing exams that you have to even be able to talk to a client about their funds. And then there's annual continuing education that you have to do every year. And then again, there's the regulatory piece. We are definitely watched after the financial crisis of 2008, especially. We are very watched under a man, my mind just went totally blank. Magnifying glass, to make sure that we're treating our clients properly. The other thing that translated too is, out in the country, your word is your bond. A handshake means a lot. And the general public, unfortunately, isn't used to that anymore, or it's not commonplace to have the down home farms, the rural community relationship status. And that's been a nice separator as well. And people know when you're from the farm or expect when you're from the farm and how you speak to them and how do you talk to them, that, if you say you're going to do it, you will. And that you're going to put them first in all financial decisions, that are made. We have a fiduciary responsibility to always put our clients first. And I think that's something that kind of in our DNA as farm kids.
I think that definitely makes a lot of sense, right? When you have that relatable factor with people coming in and saying that, hey, I also grew up on a farm. They already know those skill sets that you have, like you were talking about, right? That you're going to be dedicated to the project you're working on. And yeah, those hours may not be the same, right? You're used to working from sunrise to sundown, and them coming in and, having whatever problem may come to your desk, they know you're going to give that 110%.
Amen. That's the truth.
So going back to a little bit about having these two different jobs, managing the farm, being a financial advisor, how do you juggle it all?
That honestly, on a daily basis, sometimes is still the question. The beauty about the financial services business is I can take it with me wherever I go. The one thing that I wanted to make sure of when I knew that I had to have additional off farm income to fix the situation that we were in is I didn't want it to take away from my timeliness. Because as we all know, timeliness, especially these last few crop years, I mean, you have a little narrow window to do your work. And if you don't get it done, you're punished. So I didn't want to have a position where I'm off doing something somewhere and I know I should be home at the farm because I know the sun's shining, the ground's ready, or whatever, the hay's ready to bale. And I know I wouldn't be doing good at the other position because my head and heart would not be there. So that's a huge blessing. And sometimes it's better, I think, that we let life kind of push us in a direction a little bit and listen to it and be sensitive to it, because I probably wouldn't have picked, like if I would have sat down and said, what will you do to help fix this farm situation? Probably at the top of my mind, I probably wouldn't have picked this. But I listened to what life was telling me, peers were telling me, took some time to look at the skill set and found out it made total sense. And the nice thing is, too, is all the equipment that I drive on our farm, I do have wired up so I can take the markets with me, take the emails with me, take the text with me. Usually I'm on the phone pretty much all day while I'm in the tractor, in the combine, in the sprayer. Now, if I ran over some corn occasionally because I wasn't paying attention and I was talking to somebody, that has happened. I have to own that one. But it's appointment driven primarily. And I think that's the thing where a lot of farm families look at an off-farm job. And especially on the male side, the husband side, the son side, a lot of times it's another ag-based position. Well, again, a lot of times those things are all busy at the same time and they don't translate. And it really creates a hard time for the guy that's having to go to work every day when he knows his heart and head are back at home again. So if you're going to do something, find something that you got skills at. Farmers are great mechanics. Farmers are great in construction. Farmers are great operators. There's all sorts of things. I mean, there's a lot of farm families that I work with, clients that are in the medical fields. And all of those can all be appointment driven and can be adjusted so that when they want to be back at the farm doing the things that they were born to do, they don't have to worry about, not being there.
I think you hit the nail on the head there. When someone's looking for, a new career, when these farmers are trying to go off and try to find some off-farm income, it's thinking about all those skill sets that they already have instilled in them that they may not realize. And so, like you
Yes.
said, it's kind of it's sitting there and realizing and thinking and listening to everyone and everything around and trying to find what's best for you. So I think your story is a great example of that. Going back to your farm, um, does working in finance, has it provided any unique insights or advantages managing your own farm finances?
I would have to say, I mean, I'd be lying if I said no, for sure. Especially from the merchandising and marketing side, for sure. That's one thing that farmers in general, and again, when I say general, there are great farm marketers and merchandisers out there, probably more as a percentage today than there's ever been. But there's still, if you're in that 1,000 acre to 100 acre farm, and so still on the small side today, marketing is still something that you struggle with. And getting the training I got from Mr. Albright and then being able to put it into practice professionally for a little bit, and then even doing what I do, it's all trading, it's all risk management, it's all risk reward. It's all knowing your costs, knowing how much you got into it before we make sales, so we make sure we're profitable. That all 100% made sense. And then the thing that I see when I'm talking to other farms, my farm clients, every year I've been on average in somewhere between 12 and 15 farm clients that I'll help through the estate planning, transition planning, succession planning process. So the first thing you have to do is decide if there's a viable business there. And most of the things that I can help them with right out of the gate are the business type things, the financial things, accounting systems, hedging inputs that they need for production. A lot of farms still aren't doing that. and merchandising their, whether it's milk or, whether it's corn, merchandising that to the most profit possible, and then getting them to truly understand their farm, how the money flows, how the money works. And that's all things that I've had to put into place, to help my farm out when I first started. And then secondly, to be able to make, when I pull triggers on trades for people, to know that we're doing, we put ourselves in the best chance to succeed.
Now, when you are having those conversations with farmers or helping with them with those different plans that they have, whether that's their personal goals or their farm goals, has there been any financial mistakes that you've seen common, or like just any ones that they can easily avoid because it's something that people may not realize or just kind of overlook?
Sure. This is one that, again, if we have a few minutes, this is one that I think when people listen to this, they may come here looking for some off-farm income. But I think this question here is where you can actually put money into people's pockets by, us taking a few minutes on it. There's several things, and these are not in any ranked order. 9 out of 10 farms are significantly underinsured. So all of a sudden that lightning strike event happens, that once in a lifetime event happens, and they have, well, I have $1 million of insurance. You have a $10 million farm. So after the million, the insurance company writes its $1 million check to you. Who's paying the rest? That would be you. So there's a lot of farms that are unwilling. I'm not going to say necessarily unknowingly, but are willing, accepting too much risk when it comes to their insurance plan. And I don't sell insurance, so I have no dog in that fight. And I get very angry every year I have to write my insurance check out. So I get it 100%. Secondly is business entities. It's been the last 10 years in the ag space, farmers, LLCs have become the norm. A lot of partnerships happening, and farmers aren't taking the time to have them properly set up and have all the supporting documents that make them a legal entity. I just spoke to a farm, it had been 2 weeks ago, in northeastern Ohio, and they've been an LLC for 8 years and had no operating agreement. The document that tells everybody, the IRS, the state government, the probate court someday in your future, how this operation runs, who gets what, who's in charge, what happens if somebody passes, what if somebody wants to get out. They don't have that. And where I saw it be most punitive is in that, back to that insurance case. We are in a high risk, when we're driving tractors down the road or we have livestock by highways, there's always a chance for an accident. And then an LLC does provide a little bit of liability protection if it's set up right. So the first thing that attorneys are doing nowadays is they're saying, hey, I want to see your operating agreement. I want to see your books and records to make sure that's a standalone entity. And all of a sudden, oops, and farmers are losing some of that liability protection that's offered to them in that LLC. So that's a huge one. The third one I say that I would put right up there is most farms reinvest all the income or all the proceeds from the farm back into the farm. So when it comes to transition time, there's a lot of times not a lot of significant cash assets to help in the transition, whether it's paying mom and dad a paycheck, so, son or daughter can start living off of the farm and being full-time there and having their needs met for their family. There's just not those assets there. And then secondly, it comes down to, if there's other non-farming kids, we know now that we have to transition all the farm to the farming child. That's the only way they have a chance these days. Well, mom and dad don't love one child less or two children less than the others. So having cash available to help fund that and make that smooth is a huge thing that I definitely see is missing right now. I would say number 4 is marketing and merchandising. We've touched on that a couple times already. I think the hardest part for farmers, and I feel for them, is the lack knowing who to trust with that. Most guys now, the size and scope of each farm requires their attention in all the other areas, and especially the areas that they enjoy doing more. So being able to find that trusted advisor, somebody that they can truly turn the reins over to, and then they trust enough to listen. Back in the day when I was a commodity broker and I was helping farmers out, you could give them all the information they want, but if they didn't pull the trigger and act on it, it really wasn't worth anything. So that's a big one. So I would say those 3 or 4 things, without having to go on for 2.5 hours, those are ones that actually I'm seeing 6, 7 times out of 10 when I meet with people, for sure.
Well, I think that was all a lot of great advice for our listeners and a sneak preview of all the great work you're doing,
Thank you.
Legacy Capital Advisors. Yeah, absolutely. To round us out here, Eric, um, just some advice for our listeners and for farmers who are looking for a new career. What steps would you recommend to a farmer interested in exploring financial advising as a career?
I think the first thing is it's very specific. It'd be like asking, hey, what advice would you give a farmer if they wanted to be a doctor? There's so many specific things in base knowledge. Doctors go to college for 8 years and then have two years of residency before they can even see a patient. Financial advisors have all the economics, the math, all the licensing and training and stuff before they can become the advisor. So I think step one is talk to people. The thing that is the biggest unutilized tool, especially in young agriculture right now, is talking to live people face to face. I still to this day, I'd rather go meet with my clients at their farm, in their business, in their house, because you can truly understand what the truth of their situation is or where they're at. So same thing when I was struggling with the farm, I went around and talked to other farmers that I respected face to face, owned up what struggles I was having and struggles that we were having as a family, and listened to advice, took suggestions. And I think if you have something that seems like, man, I think that would fit in with our farm, go talk to 2 or 3 people that are doing it. Most of us, I mean, if somebody in Huron County wanted to be a financial advisor, I'd talk to them tomorrow, even though I'm a financial advisor, because most of us don't compete. We all kind of have our own little niche that we're good in. And I'd rather help somebody else because there's lots of clients that aren't my perfect match that I would have. If somebody was good out there, I'd refer them to them. So number one, communicate, talk to people. And then the biggest thing is I would just, if it's possible, find something that doesn't have the same time requirement or seasonal calendar requirement as your farm does. When I worked as the commodity broker, I had to go into work on days that I wanted to be planting, spraying, harvesting, whatever. And again, I was lucky enough with my employer to only do half days on those days, but that was soul crushing. I mean, as you sit in the window of the office and you watch a tractor go by, you're just about ready to lose it. So that's one thing that matches. The third thing, I guess, and this could also tie back into the financial piece. A lot of the off-farm things that are happening in my client base is driven a lot by health insurance. So again, that's probably going to be, if you're going to take the time away from the farm and you guys are self-insured, you may want to find something or a career or look at that does help with that health insurance piece. That's a big nut for most of us. I've never had corporate benefits in my life. My wife owns an accounting firm. We've always been self-employed. So we've always paid for our own. If there's one thing that I would like to offload, it would be my health insurance bill, and especially as I get older. You wouldn't know anything about it. They probably charge you like $1.50 or something. But old guys like me, we actually have to pay some money every month. So those are a couple things that I would definitely consider. Is you can't do enough research. The other one that I'm telling you is I think is important. This is something for everybody to look at. Is the adoption of AI and tech in agriculture. I stood on a stage back in January with a group of young farmers and said that, your farms need you more now than they ever have, because the advent of AI tech and that type of thing, biotechnology it's here. I mean, in Ohio, we're going to have autonomous tractors, working ground. We're going to have drones spraying crops, which we had the year before. But this year, even in our area, there was almost 10 to 12 drones out spraying, applying fungicide to corn this year. So that was in 1 year, we went from 1 to 10 locally. So having anything or being able to jump into that AI space, that might be a way for you to do something in a consultative role, work from home, but still learn something that you can implement into your farm that could change the landscape, especially for the smaller guys. Guys like me that are super small, we got to compete. We can't go out and buy $1 million combines, $500,000 tractors. We have to find a way to be efficient and save money.
Eric Brown, financial advisor at Legacy Capital Advisors and a farmer in Huron County. Thanks again for being here, Eric.
I appreciate you, and I appreciate Ohio Farm Bureau. Thanks for all you do.
Find previous podcasts at ohiofarmbureau.org and search podcast.